Some people enjoy rainy nights until they don't. On those nights, the relentless patter of raindrops, the occasional rumble of thunder, it all blends into a constant noise, making you feel like something is lurking just out of reach. But it's not the storm that should scare you, it's what the storm hides. The dark shapes moving just outside the picture frame, the figure standing outside the windows. The air feels thick, as though something's waiting for the rain to cover its footsteps. And tonight, it might be closer than you think. Get ready for true rainy night horror stories that will make your blood run cold and make you crave more horror stuff. So stay tuned and subscribe to the channel. The rain was coming down hard, hitting the windows like tiny stones. I sat on the couch, scrolling through my phone, trying to ignore the silence in the house. Mom and Dad were out for the night, and I was home alone. I'm 17, so it's not like I'm a little kid or anything, but I wasn't a fan of thunderstorms since childhood because they scare me. I convinced my parents to let me stay at home alone so I could watch movies that I was not allowed to watch. But then came the thunder. The lights started flickering due to voltage issues, and I groaned. "Great," I said while setting my phone down. I got up to grab a flashlight from the kitchen when I heard a soft knock at the front door. I froze. It was late, almost midnight. Who would be out in this weather? I walked to the door and peeked through the peephole. Nobody was there, just rain. My heart raced as I stood there listening. Knock, knock, knock. This time, it came from the back door. I turned around, my stomach twisting. How could someone get back there so fast? The yard was fenced in. I tiptoed to the back door, avoiding the creaky floorboards, and peeked through the curtain. Nothing. Just the trees swaying in rain. I locked the door, double-checking the bolt. My brain was screaming at me to call someone. But who? Mom and Dad wouldn't hear their phones in the noisy restaurant, and calling the cops felt silly. It was probably just the wind, I told myself. Suddenly, the lights went out, and the house turned dark. I started to feel scared. I fumbled for my phone, turning on the flashlight. The dim beam barely lit the hallway as I headed for the circuit breaker in the basement. The basement was the last place I wanted to go, but I had no choice. I reached the breaker box and opened it. My hands were shaking as I flipped the switches. Nothing happened. The power was still out. That's when I heard it. Footsteps. Slow footsteps coming from upstairs. My breath caught in my throat. I wasn't alone. I turned off my phone's flashlight and was now in the basement in complete darkness. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure whoever was upstairs could hear it. I crouched behind an old bookshelf, trying to make myself as small as possible. The footsteps grew louder. They were coming down the stairs. Whoever it was didn't care about being quiet. I covered my mouth, trying to make no sound while breathing. A man appeared at the bottom of the stairs. It was a tall and broad man wearing a soaking wet raincoat. The hood covered his face, but in his hand, he held a knife. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't make a sound. He started walking around the basement. Is he a robber? Why isn't he stealing something? What is he looking for? I thought to myself, and then the answer popped into my mind. He was looking for me. My mind raced. What could I do? The only exit was the stairs, but he was blocking them. My eyes scanned around, searching for anything I could use as a weapon. There was a rusty wrench on a nearby shelf. Slowly and carefully, I reached for it. The man stopped. He turned his head around like he'd heard something. My hand froze inches from the wrench. He turned back and started walking toward my hiding spot. I grabbed the wrench and stood up. "Stay back!" I shouted with a shaky voice. The man stopped, his hooded head tilting again. Then he laughed. It was a low, chilling sound that made my blood run cold. He jumped at me, and I swung the wrench as hard as possible. It hit his arm, and he dropped the knife while cursing. I didn't wait for him to recover. I ran up the stairs with the wrench still in hand. I slammed the basement door shut and locked it, but I knew it wouldn't hold him for long. I ran to the front door, but when I tried to open it, the handle wouldn't budge. It was like it was jammed. Panic set in as I pushed the back door. Same thing. Both doors were stuck. The sound of wood splintering came from the basement. He was breaking through. I sprinted upstairs, heading for my room. I locked the door and pushed my desk in front of it. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely think. I dialed 911, but the call wouldn't go through. No signal, of course. The storm. I threw my phone down while crying. Then I heard it. A soft tapping on my bedroom window. I turned slowly, fear filling my body. The man was outside, standing on the house's balcony. His hood had fallen back. I could see his face now. He was clean shaven, had a massive scar on his left cheek, and was smiling. I screamed as he smashed the window with his fist. Glass shattered everywhere, and then he came inside through the broken window. I grabbed a lamp and threw it at him, but he barely felt it. "You're mine now," He yelled at me with excitement. Suddenly, there was a loud bang from downstairs. The man froze, his smile disappearing. Another bang, followed by shouting, "Please, come out with your hands up!" The man cursed, backing away from me. He climbed out the broken window and disappeared into the night. Moments later, 2 police officers burst into my room. They looked around, guns drawn, but the man was gone. They took my statement and searched the house, but couldn't find him. One of the officers said the neighbors had called when they saw a suspicious man in the yard. The police arrived just in time. And I get chills down my spine when I think about what could have happened if the police hadn't shown up in time. I have to make a tough decision soon, but I have no idea what to do. I will explain my situation and let you guys say what you think. First, I should probably introduce myself. I'm not too good with people. I avoid talking to anyone in person. I even wait a month to go grocery shopping, so I don't have to deal with anyone. I live alone and I'm happy about that. My house is a few miles into the woods, right on the edge of a small town. Nothing crazy happens here. Sometimes people trespass because they think my house is abandoned. It's abandoned except for the new car parked outside. Occasionally, hunters ask if they can hunt on my land, but I always say no. One time, a stray bullet broke my window, and that was enough for me. Anyway, nothing much has happened until last night. My sleep schedule is super messed up. I'm usually awake from 8 p.m. to 7 a.m. So it was around 3 a.m. I was online trying to figure out how to fix a small hole in my ceiling without doing a bad DIY job. Suddenly, I heard this loud howling noise outside. The wind picked up out of nowhere, and it started raining hard. Before I knew it, the lights had flickered a few times, and then they had gone out completely. Great, I said to myself. I started looking around my desk for my phone and found it pretty quickly. I turned on the flashlight and realized that the floodlights outside on the power pole were also out. To make it worse, my phone's battery was almost dead because I hadn't charged it before. I sighed and remembered I had a flashlight in the kitchen for this situation, but as soon as I stepped into the kitchen, the power returned. I noticed this because the lamps in the living room lit up again. I set my phone on the counter and went to the window to check outside. That's when I saw it. Someone was standing outside. They looked like a regular person, but what freaked me out was how they were just standing there. The wind and rain didn't seem to bother them at all. When I stared at them, they turned their head like they knew I was watching. I shuddered and froze for a moment before running to the front door. I locked it and deadbolted it, but I didn't feel much safer. What if they break a window? And then I remembered the spare key I lost in the yard while mowing. I tried not to think about it. I ran to my room and grabbed my shotgun by my bed. When I returned to the kitchen to look out the window again, the person was gone. My heart was racing. I couldn't stop shaking. I felt so paranoid and scared. I don't even like talking to people I know, let alone some creepy stranger outside my house. I tried to calm down and sat at my desk in the living room. I could see the front door from there, so I know if it opened. I hadn't noticed the thunder and lightning earlier, but now it felt so loud. Every time lightning struck, I gripped my shotgun tighter. I realized I left my phone in the kitchen, so I got up to get it, but as I did, the power went out again. This time, it surged a few times and stayed off. The power stayed on for about a minute, but I was too scared to move. I just stood there, staring at the foyer. That's when I noticed the door was open, and in the doorway, I saw a shadow. It looked like a man standing there. Then the power went out again, and this time it stayed off. I froze as I heard loud stomping, wet clothes brushing against stuff, and then silence. My legs gave out and I fell to the floor, sitting with my eyes squeezed shut. I didn't want to see anything. I couldn't see in the dark anyway, and I didn't want to know who was in my house. I sat there, gripping my shotgun so tightly my hands hurt. Minutes passed, or maybe it was a half an hour. I wasn't paying attention. Finally, I heard a popping noise, and the lamps turned back on. I kept my eyes shut for a few seconds before slowly opening them. No one was in front of me. The door was closed, locked, and even the deadbolt was in place. Somehow, I was sitting back in my desk chair. That's when I noticed the wet footprints. They were all over the floor. I slowly got up and walked to the kitchen. My phone was gone. I knew exactly where I'd left it. Now, it was just gone. Outside, the rain was still coming down hard. I returned to my desk chair and sat down, trying to think. My phone was my only way to call the cops, and now it was gone. I felt my car keys in my pocket and thought about driving into town. I grabbed my shotgun, ran to the door, unlocked it, and stepped outside. I jumped into my car, but nothing happened when I turned the key. I tried again, still nothing, not even a sound. I slammed my fist on the steering wheel because I got frustrated. I ran back into the house, locked the door behind me, and sat at my desk. I had two options, walk 15 miles to town in this storm or stay here and wait. I decided to wait. The rain kept tapping everywhere, but then I heard something else. A loud bumping noise and creaking sounds. My stomach turned. It was coming from the attic. I froze. Whoever had been in my house must be up there. After about an hour, the rain began to let up. The clouds started clearing and it stopped sprinkling outside, but the noises in the attic didn't stop. It's 9 p.m. now. I'm sitting here with my shotgun next to me, recording this. I keep thinking about what to do. Should I make the 15-mile walk into town at night or check the attic? I don't want to spend another night terrified in my own house. I think I'm going to check the attic. If you find this recording, you'll know something terrible happened to me when I entered the attic. I've always loved thunderstorms. There's just something about the heavy rain, booming thunder, and flashing lights that excites me. It's a mix of fear and excitement, and I can't get enough of it. That's why when a storm rolled in last night, I decided to put my new phone to good use. I wanted to capture some incredible slow-mo footage to share on my Instagram. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I slipped my phone into a waterproof case and set it up on a tripod in my backyard. I framed the shot so half was focused on the dark, stormy sky and the other half on my yard. The idea was to catch the lightning as it lit the grass, trees, and garden ornaments. It would be eerie and atmospheric, perfect for posting. Once it was recording, I hurried back inside. I turned off the TV and lights so the backyard stayed as dark as possible with no extra light. The rain pounded against the windows. I could hear the trees dancing and the tapping sound on the roof. I loved it, and it brought me peace. After about 20 minutes, I decided I'd probably capture the storm's best parts. I ran outside, grabbed the tripod, and tried to get back inside quickly. In my rush, I slipped, falling hard into the cold, muddy water just outside the door. I didn't even care about being soaked. I was too worried about my phone. Luckily, the camera lens was fine and the screen wasn't cracked. Relieved, I went inside, changed into dry clothes, and hooked my phone to my computer to check the footage. The first minute and a half was completely normal, just the sound of rain, distant thunder, and darkness. Then came the first lightning flash, and I felt a chill. Someone was standing at the edge of my yard, just barely visible. A human, facing away from the camera. I paused the video. My stomach dropped. The flash had been bright enough to show matted hair and torn mud-covered clothes, but not much else. My yard is fenced in, and the old gate makes a loud screech when opened. I hadn't heard anything. I knew there couldn't be anyone out there. I hit play again. The next flash showed the person moving, slowly. The light revealed more this time. It was an elderly woman. She didn't look like any of my neighbors. She seemed lost, wandering in circles at the corner of the yard. I ran to the back door, turned on the porch light, and looked around the yard through the rain. Nothing. No one. Just the wet grass and the sound of leaves on the trees moving due to the wind. I went back to my computer and kept watching. Each burst of lightning showed the woman still there, moving closer, though never enough for the camera to capture her face. Finally, about 16 minutes into the footage, she wandered directly into the camera's view. A lightning flash from the front of the house exposed her completely, and the camera focused on her for a split second. Her eyes were gray, dull and red. Her hair was messy with dirt clumped in it, hanging around her thin face full of wrinkles and scars. Parts of her face and neck had deep scratches. There was a vast torn out hole in her shirt where you could see her stomach, and there was a massive bruise on her stomach. I couldn't stop staring, frozen, until the yard went dark again when the lightning stopped. I kept watching the video, my brain racing to figure out what I had just seen. I'd been recording the yard the whole time. How did I miss her? Was it some kind of glitch? A prank? That didn't make sense. Then, out of nowhere, I heard the sound of my sliding door opening through my speakers. The video showed her stopping and turning her head toward the noise. The feed started moving like the camera was being picked up, but she was gone, nowhere to be seen. My heart almost stopped when the video showed the camera suddenly falling to the ground. That's when I remembered I dropped it when I slipped earlier. The next thing I saw was my own scarred face in the footage as I picked up the camera, checking the lens. Then something moved behind me, just barely out of focus. The video flipped as I checked the front screen, and that's when I saw her. She slipped through the open door into my house, disappearing into the dark. The door closed behind her. The last shot of the video showed my living room empty. I shut the screen off, yanked out my phone, and threw it into the trash. But even as I sat there frozen, I couldn't shake the horrible feeling crawling up my spine. Something was wrong. Very wrong. She was inside my house now. I instantly called 911, and now I'm locked in my room, waiting for them to come and rescue me. These stories just go to show that our worst fears might come true. As the rain fades and the night settles, don't be fooled by the silence. That tapping you heard wasn't the wind. The shadows you thought were just a trick of the light may have been watching you. Don't let the calm fool you, because sometimes the scariest things come out when the rain begins to fall. What do you think about it? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, then don't forget to subscribe and give us a thumbs up.